Hey. Hi, I'm Abby, and this intro line was totally not pre-scripted. Welcome to my channel where everything means nothing all of the time, but also means nothing. I don't know, whatever. Today, I just want to take a beat with y'all. Just take a little breather and ask just one question.
Where does it end?
Sounds dramatic, so let me explain. When are we going to admit that maybe, perhaps, revamping old media, which in some cases is only good because some people feel nostalgic about it, isn't going to create new good media? I'm honestly too lazy to do like a fun, sexy intro to this video. I had a pretty tough time getting through the first few episodes of the new iCarly reboot, and so I wanted to make this very quickly to kind of outline what iCarly means to me, but, you know, mostly to list out the things about the revival that I don't like. Things that make me lose interest in further episodes. I feel like this current and exponentially enervating rehash of old media hell that we live in today started with all of those live-action Disney reboots when they found this formula that worked for a few things. Now we've sort of moved on and realized they're not really, adding anything new or interesting to these movies, and it's just getting super old, and everyone's getting really sick of it, but they refuse to stop beating this dead horse when it stops spitting out money. But it didn't start or end with movies. I mean, we've had Fuller House, The Raven Show, etc. Maybe an iCarly reboot was just inevitable. Actually, it was probably more inevitable given that it was like a Nickelodeon show about the internet. Carly and Sam hosting their weekly random web series with Freddie as the IT guy, as well as Carly's older brother Spencer and all their wacky, silly, in-between life shenanigans. And as this, prescient commentary to contemporary online culture, the old show kind of adds to this conversation of like online narcissism and like influencers, and acts as a forewarning to the trends that we actually see today. But it's a kid's show. It's a show made for kids ages 8 to 13, and I know because when I was that age, I watched it. Everyone I knew watched it. Quentin Reviews made a really good comment about this in his 5-hour-long iCarly video, which I'm gonna echo here. It was the first TV show where I was able to be present each week for a new episode, as opposed to watching it all at once on a streaming service. I felt the cliffhangers of Sam potentially leaving iCarly, of Carly maybe moving away from Seattle, etc. My parents had talked about these sorts of big moments all the time on like Cheers and Frasier. So looking back, it's pretty cool to see that, my generation got to experience the tail end of that before we were able to, just watch something which was all released at once, which they did for at least the first 3 episodes of the new reboot. Mistake number 1, in my opinion. And, because it was this huge, successful show for kids, they didn't have to make any commentary on the zeitgeist or, talk about what was happening currently, politically. They didn't need to or want to. Why would they? They'd throw in maybe some adult humor, but they'd never really, cross any lines and do anything more than mention Obama by name. This show about the internet, which was back then a relatively new thing, and, these 3 teenagers running a webcast, was special because it felt like, the kids in the show actually had control over what they were doing. Now, like, we all know the parents in kids shows are usually, like, depicted as gullible or just dumb. But in iCarly, the parents essentially aren't even there. You have Freddie's mom, who's so good at playing the role of this ridiculous, over-the-top protective mom that no kid would take her seriously. Carly's dad is in the Air Force, so he's not there. Sam's mom doesn't sound too present. And Sam's dad and Carly's mom are both rarely, if ever, mentioned. This, making the show more about the kids and having the parents be less involved, this was like the appeal of late 2010s Nickelodeon shows, I think. Even in Drake and Josh, the parents had a central role, but in iCarly, these kids are pretty much doing whatever they want, and honestly, so is Spencer. Like, he doesn't exude responsibility or anything. And, to add to them doing whatever they want, they have this insanely popular web series on the early days of the internet, back when it was travel agencies and Amazon just sold books. And a few years ago, when, social media like Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok eventually took off, we all realized that iCarly as a show was a precursor to contemporary social media, in that the comprehension of social media technology and popular trends is going to come easier to those who grew up in it. In other words, kids, 10 to 15 now, who were born with this technology, they're gonna know how to use like social media technology better than any CEO who's, run booming businesses for the last 40 years, but can't figure out Instagram. Online culture changes at such a fast pace nowadays that I'm 22 and I feel like I can't keep up sometimes. What is the deal with the Suez Canal? Am I just super late to that? So iCarly was set in this world where there are no parents and little real-world responsibility, and each week they showcase a little sliver of their characters online to millions of adoring and often really creepy fans. And each week, they tackled a problem that current online influencers face: having their website stolen or taken down, being duped by a brand deal, literal blackmail, which seems to almost eerily predict the things that influencers experience and that we see on TikTok and other platforms now. But, despite the astounding changes in social media that we've seen between the old series and the revival, and the potential, really, that this reboot has to be, it seems like it just doesn't really have anything to add to the conversation. 3 new episodes came out on June 17th, 2021, on a streaming platform I'm not even going to give visibility to on my tiny channel here. And I've been rewatching the old iCarly series and a bunch of video essays to prepare for this, and I had a feeling before starting it that it wasn't going to be great. That feeling had nothing to do with the actual show yet. It had to do with this, current exhausting culture of nostalgia revamping that we see across our great nations. For more on that, actually, you should check out Drew Gooden's video. He explains it really well. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to delve too far into that, Think Star Wars and Rey going to Tatooine and just to be like, look, we went to this place that that's cool, right? So I watched the first few episodes, and the mildly depressing conclusion that I came to was this. The iCarly revival seems to pendulate between, this selfless cash grab to revamp some careers and a genuine critique on current social media culture. But by trying to keep the format of the old series down to the laugh track, and having plotlines and characters which become kind of unbearable within 10 minutes, through, no real fault of the actors themselves, it just kind of fails to do anything at all, and oh god, that almost hurts my heart to say. I never thought I would say that about a show I literally cried over. I'm not really gonna go through all the episodes because I'm assuming anyone, clicking on this video is gonna have seen them. So, if that grinds your gears, go find another YouTuber, alright? I'm not here to explain iCarly to you. I'm not even trying to be mean, I just don't think I honestly could explain the plots. Okay. I guess here we go. Here's some reasons that I don't think I'll be watching the new iCarly revival further. The first joke in the first episode is punctuated with a laugh track. And that laugh track did something evil to me. In one split second, it solidified my fear that the revival was not going to try to be any sort of subversive commentary. Jolting me into this, terrifying, nostalgic, but weird, cringy part of my brain that immediately was like, please no, please, thanks, I hate it. I mean, do I need to explain the laugh track too much? If the writers were in tune at all with what makes a good reboot, they might have considered the fact that laugh tracks are dying out at a rate equal to monologues on late night shows. And it's more than just, oh, it's dead people laughing, isn't that creepy? It's just not where comedy shows are right now. To have a laugh track play after a joke about influencers I didn't even realize was supposed to be funny, it's not a good starting point. Why is Spencer rich? I know why. He sold his sculpture for millions, and yeah, it's renowned as a deep take on society, but it's actually a mistake, classic Spency. But when I was rewatching the old series, I realized that Spencer's character is relatable not because he's a rich artist, it's because he's a starving artist. One could go as far as to say that he represented the people who want that kind of influencer life and exposure. Much like, Spencer's own little sister already had without years of experience. Aside from the fact that the apartment is supposedly revamped for thousands of dollars but looks exactly the same as it did in the former series, Spencer as a rich person is so annoying I can't even watch a full scene with him. Now this was the first time in writing this and doing this that I thought, hey, am I being a little too critical? Am I putting the old iCarly on too high a pedestal? And then I thought, no, if you're gonna revamp a series where your former audience was, tweens and teens who are now gonna be 20-somethings, why would you take the only character that was 20 and is now older and just turn him into this insufferable rich buffoon? When that's probably the least relatable thing that your 20-something audience could see at that point. This choice just feels, especially weird when you take into account the whole, oh, let's fix old problematic things in the new thing. Because, It would have been one thing, right, if Spencer was like an older, more responsible, more, older brother type who, has fame and fortune, or maybe had fame and fortune and lost it or something, and could, help Carly out with her internet life dilemmas, having already gone through what she's going through now when he was her age. It would have been one thing if he served as a vessel at all for, life lessons for us 20-somethings. But, whatever problematic things Spencer did on the old series, which of course age, because, it so happens with comedy, they don't really stack up to him, lying about not being able to see and forcing Freddie to help him go to the bathroom and then saying he has to do it because he gave him seed money for his startup. Ugh. Dude, low-key, Spencer, what the heck? Come on, dude. It's in these scenes where the laugh track and the whole vibe also becomes sort of sad. Like, part of you might be chuckling a little bit, but another part of you is thinking like, wow, isn't Spencer almost 50? Isn't Freddie supposed to be like a father right now? Oh my god, Freddie is a father. Even the title sequence is a little sad. I really enjoyed hearing it in this new format the first time, but the second time it just seemed like somebody half-assed what the internet looked like and didn't really try to match the video with the audio like they did in the other sequence. It's a small thing. I just go and watch the introduction one more time and tell me there's not something just sort of hollow about it. Spencer is canonically in his 40s now, and even as like this rich and famous artist, all he's doing is still running around with people who are half his age, and also a literal child. Which, whatever, it's a show. But it sort of feels like Spencer's character no longer has anything to offer. I don't like Carly.
But my content still has value. And you know what? Likes do make my empty soul feel better. But that's just because it's been scientifically proven to release dopamine.
Miranda Cosgrove was this phenomenal actress when she was younger, and it's clear she still has that potential. But in the revival, it seems like she can only really be really superficial and worried about things that don't really have any stakes. In the first episode, they play it up as if Carly and her boyfriend Beau are gonna get, engaged, like the sitcom trope we all know. But she's actually just asking him to start a channel, like, okay. And after, deciding to do the series on her own, and a few, half-assed web clips with, a very hollow, it's like, we never left. So far, I feel like we haven't gotten any more, clips from the actual iCarly web show, which was something the old series did really well, weaving into the plot lines and lives of the characters. Or at least making the show a little bit more interesting by, punctuating it with these silly little skits that had nothing to do with the plot. Or in some cases, using the web show as a means for comeuppance against an antagonistic character, which seemed like a theme that's just sitting there, waiting to be used. It also feels like she's more obsessed with boys than she ever was as a teenage girl, which just gets boring by the third episode. Tell me how it is that, hardworking, kind Carly as a teenager was someone who had, crushes on boys, but, it didn't take up entire seasons, or she didn't really obsess over them as a main plot point, except for a few exceptions. Like a teenage girl, a demographic known for being obsessed over boys, right? How'd you go from that to, a 28-year-old who doesn't really, seem to have a lot more going on in her life than, her relationship? She also seems to be, depressed when she isn't actively seeing a boy or, getting ready to make a boy jealous. Which at this point just feels like, dude, are we still doing this? She sets up a photo of a boy that she just met the previous day in her apartment just to make her ex jealous. She only goes to a red carpet event to make her ex jealous, and yeah, I can't lie to you. Of course I watched the 4th and 5th episode. What am I gonna do? Not watch iCarly? When Harper, her best friend, sets her up on a date with a boy she doesn't really vibe with, they fight, partly because, Carly thinks she doesn't know her as well as she thought she did, since she set her up with this absolute dud. Then at the red carpet event, she's like, maybe my type is hot and dumb, despite there being no evidence that she changed her mind or that was ever really her type. She dated Kyle and she dated Shane. Those were two super smart dudes. Oh, so let's talk about Harper. You can go ahead. You can go ahead and say she's not a replacement for Sam, but she is. It's obvious. They can't do iCarly without Sam. First of all, she does seem to be the token black friend. It's duh, I'm glad to see, more diversity on iCarly, especially given the issues with that. But she has one joke, and it's, I'm sexually promiscuous. And it just comes off as weird. Feels like they're using Harper and Carly against each other in a way that I will let another female black YouTuber go into. Harper's other joke is that she was rich, but now she's not rich, and she works at Skybucks now. So, I mean, even if she is the most relatable character to the audience in terms of like minimum wage work and that experience, she still has this joke where she was rich and she wants to be rich again, and I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired. What's happening with Freddie? It seems like everyone in the show is rich, or at least has the means to live in like a very nice apartment, except for Freddie, who's still living with his mom, even though he has a daughter. So Freddie's been divorced twice. Okay. And he has this stepdaughter now who, she comes off as this, Gen Z stand-in for the show, which would be funny and good if she had any like deeper arc than talking about what happened on the internet or like trying to like cancel Carly or whatever. But they're also definitely using her character for like this weird Sam stand-in. Like, she's really mean to Freddie. She manipulates him into giving her things. She seems to care for him, but she doesn't really want to show it. And she just generally serves to deliver the setup for the punchline that is Freddie. They can't give all of the Sam lines to Harper, so they gave Freddie a daughter who bullies him. My bigger question is, why? Why is Freddie living with his mom? Again, I know why. The whole shtick, like, he had 2 failed startups and 2 divorces, and Jesus. It's like, Freddie, you're almost 30, dude. You gotta get it together, man. There's no way that the former tech producer for iCarly, you're so broke that you can't afford to live without your mother. I'm sorry. This is another nitpick. It's just more sort of one of those things that feels like it just could have been set up or explained better. A lot of the Freddie, Mrs. Benson, Millicent stuff seems to just be like, remember when this happened on iCarly, and now look, they're older, and look, and there's another one, and it's happening again. Laugh! Please laugh. I know this is, nitpicky and we're having some laughs, but this next part is a little serious. Again, I don't want to go into this too deeply here because there are some really awesome YouTube videos that already exist about Jeanette McCurdy and Dan Schneider and all of that. To make a very long story short, Jeanette never wanted to be Sam in the first place, for reasons that are incredibly valid if you look it up. And she's been very outspoken about being embarrassed about her time on iCarly. This is all very public. She has a YouTube podcast she releases every day. She hasn't disappeared by any means. She just made it very, very clear that she wants nothing to do with the new show and doesn't want to be associated with it at all. So for them to throw in this line about how much Carly misses Sam feels a little jabbing, because it definitely came off as more of a desperate plea for McCurdy to give in and come back onto the show than, this "we understand and we genuinely hope you're doing okay now" sentiment. It's interesting, and may I say very, very bold, to try and do an iCarly reboot when you're missing one of your main characters, and so much of the show relied on the dynamics in the friendships and the relationships between these characters. Between Carly, Sam, and Freddie. In a previous episode, Season 3, Episode 16, titled "I Won't Cancel the Show," Sam is admitted to juvie for assaulting an ambassador. This also meant the episode was very quickly rewritten that week to explain her absence, since McCurdy was suddenly unexpectedly unavailable. The result is a very sloppy iCarly webcast episode, a ruined date that Spencer had with a very sophisticated woman, and the feeling of a very rough, unfinished episode overall. Seriously, go rewatch it, having watched the revival, maybe having watched this video, instead of just, not mentioning why Sam wasn't there. The entire episode is about why she's not there, how everything goes wrong because of that. And as Quentin Reviews said in his phenomenal video, Carly learns that iCarly doesn't work without Sam. And here's the bigger thing. Not having Sam wouldn't be an issue if the show weren't just, rehashing every single old iCarly thing they could think of, but throwing in some modern influencer beauty product. Wow. If the iCarly reboot were going to be, a subversive take on the mind-numbing and negative experiences of social media, which I thought we all agreed upon were causing harm after Bo Burnham's new special, it wouldn't need Sam or any of the gags like doing the interesting meme literally twice in under 2 minutes. My first thoughts after finishing the episode were like, I turned off the TV and I just sat on my couch and I thought, you know, is this gonna be a show about rich idiots after we've all spent a year inside thinking about how much we hate rich idiots? Is this going to be a show about like, oh, remember this, but also influencer culture woven within this harrowing, culture-bending facet of a laugh track? Are we really going to turn my serotonin-inducing, beloved Nickelodeon show into yet another selfless cash grab, which would seemingly rather play into current meme tropes and talk about furries because, oh my god, they said furries on iCarly, then let it be a subversive commentary on its predecessor, or anything new or exciting at all. Is this the end of entertainment? I'm sure other YouTubers will have said this before I did, and I'm sure others will say it after me too. But there's this scene in the first episode where Spencer's talking about his infamous sculpture of stuff, the one that broke a record in the former series. It's almost too spot on to what the show is now.
Impressive. Is it different from the old one?
No, it is the old one, just with more stuff. Hence the plus.
I'm not unamused.
I'm full on amused.
Are we all looking at the same thing?
It seems like, you know, the iCarly reboot wants to be like modern and cool and relevant and like talk about social media because like, isn't it crazy that this show predicted all these trends? And after the first episode, everyone was like, oh my god, that is crazy. Wow, yeah. But then they just kept saying that. They just kept repeating it over and over. I don't know about you, but I don't really care about the lives of the iCarly gang or the people they've become because it's so boring. It's so boring now. Not because it's, you know, not how I personally expected the show to go. I didn't have a lot of expectations going in. Because nostalgia only goes so far. And 5 episodes in, it feels like it's already going pretty sour. I'm sorry. I mean, I can't even begin to talk about the iRobot wedding episode without this looming sense of dread. There's almost just too much that doesn't make sense. It's not even really worth making a video about. iCarly was a great show in the 2010s for us kids because it was about funny kids doing funny stuff on the internet. Then, you know, when online streaming became a monopolized industry, everyone was stuck inside anyways, watching everything old because nobody could make anything new. We all 20-somethings discovered it had like a deeper meaning to it, sort of. Again, it's a kid's show. But it did predict trends that we currently see today. If you don't believe me, check out this clip from like a special iCarly DVD.
Hey, what can I get you?
Can we see a menu, please?
All of the food is listed right in front of you.
The laugh track alone kind of cued me into the thought that like this wasn't gonna be good. Because if the writers are using a laugh track, it means that I don't know if they're in touch. I think they were pretty out of touch when they decided to greenlight this project. The choices they've made with the characters and the exclusion of Jeanette McCurdy, which in terms of messing up character dynamics is sort of like taking Morty out of Rick and Morty. It just further cemented this, you know, dropped gut feeling. And by the end of the first episode, I just felt sad. Some of these lines, they feel like the end of culture or something.
I'm not into bunnies. No biggie. You don't have to leave. I'm sorry, Harper. I really like you. You're smart, fun, interesting, beautiful, but I got the ick.
Fair.
So I'm already onto page 8 in Google Docs. I feel like if I write or think about this any longer, I'll just end up getting more angry and sad. So I'm gonna end this video analysis here. Huge shout out to Julia Boateng and Quentin Reviews, both of whom have amazing in-depth analyses on Jeanette McCurdy and iCarly respectively, which I will link in the description. And thank you, viewer, for watching this. If you liked it, please let me know down below. I like doing stuff like this. It's kind of fun. I do not currently have any social media besides YouTube and TikTok, mostly for my own mental health. So I'm on there too. But hey, don't you dare try to perceive me, okay? Don't you dare. Thanks again for watching. And if you feel like hitting the subscribe button, please do so. I'm Abby, and my Oh, and my cat's name is Toto, after the band, not the dog from The Wizard of Oz, obviously.